ladies and gentleworms. Welcome to Get in the Sea, the only podcast available where the production team really don't give a shit what happens because they're too fucking drunk. I can see them on the floor passed out. The concept is very simple. I, the master of all I survey, invite various victims, guests, onto the show to discuss 3 subject matters that have come under particular headings. These headings are audio, visual, and random. Audio can be anything from a song, to a band, to a children's nursery rhyme, or perhaps they just love people who beatbox really badly for no reason. Visual is something that can be an ocular assault, be it a film, a TV show, or perhaps a piece of art. Or maybe they're just, stinking hippies and love cloud formations. Whatever. And random gives our guests a chance to discuss anything they want, whether it's their obsession of doorknobs or taking a shit in the bath, whatever turns them on, really. As long as they give me logical reasons for bringing them to my attention, I will hear them. And then, after they discuss these particular items and attempted to convince me, I, being the king of fucking everything, would decide whether this is a good thing and whether they should get in the fucking sea or not. My guest today is Tristan. Thank you very much for coming on the show, sir. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you'll regret that.
That was a wonderful intro. You are the king of fucking everything.
Oh, thanks, mate. I'm the best person in my bedroom. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 3 facts here about Tristan. And basically, one of them's not true. Tristan was once courted to be the next L'Oreal model, but he rejected it because he was too busy washing his hair. Oh, the irony! His current living arrangement is a small cave in a forest somewhere in northern Norway with a family of trolls, where he pays a reasonable rent compared to the properties in London, which he says is just shit.
Oh, man.
He's also a big fan of wrestling and loud, raucous music, which he indulges by singing in a band. One of these statements is true. I will let you, the listening public, decide.
Luckily, my roommates are gone. The trolls aren't here.
So I was fairly accurate, even if I was... Anyway, quickly moving on. Tristan, my man, just to, further showcase the plummeting depths that this chat could take over the next hour or so, will you answer me this very important question?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Let's go.
Would you rather binge watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians or deep fry a dog turd and eat it with a quinoa salad?
Oh, man. I don't think I was ready for that. I think I'd take my chances with the dog turd because at least that has the quinoa salad. And, deep frying does something to it, I guess. It kind of takes all the flavor out of it anyway. Like if you ever had a deep fried Mars bar or something, deep fried Mars bar, deep fried dog turd, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a good logic, man. I like you giving this proper thought. I appreciate that. And let's face it, Keeping Up with the Kardashians is a giant dog turd anyway, so good, man. I love your answer for that, sir. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tristan has brought me 3 items to discuss today to decide whether I'm going to chuck them in the sea or not. Under the heading of audio, Tristan, please explain what you're going to discuss today.
The audio I have brought for you, Ben, is the music of the band Trivium, specifically their latest record, What the Dead Men Say.
Oh.
Now, I'm slightly biased here because Trivium have been one of my favorite bands since I was about 12 or 13. I think 2005 is when Ascendancy came out, so that's when I started listening to them. Mainly because I saw a guy at my ice hockey practice in a Trivium t-shirt. And thought the logo was really fucking cool, so I just went, we can swear, right? Yeah,
I may have done that already about 10 times, so...
Wonderful. Fuckity, fuck. But yeah, I spotted this guy's t-shirt and went, yeah, that logo's dope. Are they a band? He went, oh yeah, here's this, and this. And I went home, spun all the songs, and it was just like, oh my god, this is great. Then they followed it up with a crap album. But the reason I like them is not just for each individual record, but because when you look at their back catalogue as a whole, you can kind of see the journey they've been on, that they've done what a lot of bands don't at that age. I mean, Ascendancy came out when they were in their early 20s. And then from that point, they just tried new things on each record. Each record was an experiment. And it's only recently, from sort of 2017 onwards, that there's not only been a consistent sound, but a consistent sort of good level of musicianship and sort of prime talent being sort of refined in a way, which I really, really respect.
And fair play, man. For those of you who don't know, Trivium were formed in 1999, so they've already had a 20-year career behind them, which is bloody hell good. I do remember when the Ascendancy kicked off and they were all over the UK press, like all over it, and I was like, who are these guys? And I remember listening to what's that song? Pull harder, strings, yeah. I remember that, Strange Mountain. Yeah, which is still funny. I watched that the other day just for a giggle, and I was just like, that's fucking amazing. For any non-metaler listening to this, go fuck yourself. Basically, so Trivium have been around for quite a long time, which is, for me, a little bit bizarre, because not only does it make me realise how old I am, but I can't believe that they've got nearly 10 albums behind them, and that's just bizarre. I still look at Matt Heafy. Anytime I look at him, I just go, dude, you're like 15 years old to me. But you just come across as such a really nice guy. And obviously for this conversation, I was doing a lot of research and, just checking out interviews all across their career. And he does just come across as a really nice guy who's just, he wants to just practice. He practices and believes that, this is his job. So he wants to be ready to fucking go at any time. He wants to do an album. He's ready to go. He wants to do a tour. He's ready to go. He practices 6 to 8 hours a day or something occasionally. Yeah. And,
that's guitar and vocals.
Yeah, exactly, man. So judging, from his Twitch account, which he's been doing for the last 3 years, from what I understand, he just does his practice regime and people just tune in and go, dude, you fucking shred.
Yeah, man.
One thing that I have noticed, that Trivium seem to get a lot of shit. Almost, all bands, you're not gonna have people agree that all these bands are the same. People don't like the same music, and that's fine, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't wish it any other way, but I don't quite get why they get so much hate.
I think there's a couple of things in there. Like you say, the UK press lauded them when Ascendancy came out and were like, oh, these guys are the next Metallica, blah, blah, blah. Then the follow-up album came out a year later, so there's only a year in between Ascendancy and the Crusade, and those albums are night and day.
They had 6 to 8 weeks to write it or something?
Yeah.
I forgot, I read an interview, I listened to an interview, and he said after they blew up and they, everything was they were on top of the world, they had such a short time from the record label to get a new album, because then they were going on tour, and fuck that.
No, absolutely. You can't write a record in 6 weeks. It's why I'm impressed. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's why I'm impressed when bands put out sort of songs that are halfway decent, let alone good, in 24 hours. They're usually simple, but they're good. But 6 weeks to write a full record, when you look at the Crusade in that context, bits of it are impressive. But I think the thing that everyone kind of shat on them for initially was they went from Ascendancy, which was this kind of Gothenburg metal inspired, kind of metalcore album, but not really. A journalist that I follow described it as, what did he describe it as? He was like, oh, it's In Flames with a bit of Megadeth thrown in, and I was like, it's a bit more than that. But then the Crusade came out, and it was just all the mimicry of Metallica that they could do, which I guess you kind of want to do in a way if you're influenced by a band. It's something everyone does at least once. Yeah,
I think from the interviews I've seen with the band in general in the last week or so, they were very much this album, it represents this sort of thing we wanted to do. This album was very much a 80s thrash influence. And especially with the Crusade, Matt Heafy was very much this is almost the antithesis of the Ascendancy, because I didn't want to do that again. He was very much I don't know why, but I didn't want that popularity, or I didn't want that thing anymore. I didn't want to do that thing that people expected. He was very much we could do another album like that, but what's the point? And some bands do, some bands don't, people have to bear in mind that is technically their third album, because their first one came out on Life Force Records before they got picked up by Roadrunner. I don't know, I got to give credit to the man, really, because I think they could have done super pop album you know, they could have gone even more cheese, you know, and
yeah, absolutely.
There is some element of Stilton in there. I mean, I love Stilton.
Yeah.
But, you know, so
oh man, like who doesn't love a bit of cheddar? And
right?
You know, when you look at who they were inspired by, bands like not just In Flames and At the Gates and Dark Tranquillity, and Matt obviously has his black metal influences.
Yep.
Like I think he's probably the biggest Emperor fan on the planet, but they're also influenced by Iron Maiden and Metallica and, you know, all that kind of ilk of it, and elements of that are starting to shine through. You say, you know, it was a bit Stilton, but then in 2015, I would argue they put out an album that was even more Stilton than The Crusade in Silence in the Snow. There was no screaming on that record at all either, because Matt had blown his voice out and he couldn't anymore.
Yeah, 2014, I believe he did that because he didn't look after himself. Naughty boy.
No, he didn't. Wasn't warming up properly, doing any of that stuff, which I now do religiously, by the way, since lockdown has started. Mm-hmm. Just to make sure I practice. But enough about that. With Silence in the Snow, it was the closest thing to a power metal record, I would say, that Trivium have put out. There are some good songs on there. Others didn't quite dig it, but I thought it was all right. They put out an album before that in 2013 called Vengeance Falls, which I didn't groove with at all, but others did. It was produced by David Draymond from Disturbed, and a lot of people felt he had a bit of an influence on that, which is a little hard to deny when you listen to it. But, you know, even then, they were still gaining popularity regardless, because they had a big back catalogue of songs that people wanted to hear. First time I saw the band... Just
to interject there, man. I think the people who were surprised that David Draymond had an influence on the recording are dumb. If you go to David Draymond as a producer, which is what they as a band wanted to do, how are people not surprised that he did have an influence, being in that he was or is in Disturbed, who are, as much as I'm not a big fan, one of the biggest rock and metal bands in the world. You know, these guys play consistently to a lot of people. Carry on, please, sir.
Oh no, absolutely. That's a whole other discussion about the effects that producers can have on records. I mean, we all remember Bob Rock, right? For all the good stuff he did, Saint Anger, yeah. So he actually played bits of bass on that record, and we like to forget that. But yeah, I think about the first time I saw Trivium live, which is when I just moved to the UK. I think it was actually probably even sooner. It was probably right before I went home to Kuwait for Christmas for the first time. They were playing at Brixton. It was on the Metal Hammer Defenders of the Faith tour with, funnily enough, In Flames as main support, with the rest of the support bill being, who was it? It was Ghost, who were doing one of their first big tours in the UK, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Who are huge now.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And then below Ghost, was the opening band was a Norwegian band called Incense, who I haven't heard much from, and Rise to Remain, which featured the son of Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson, which was pretty cool. He jumped off a couple of cabs and nearly took out their guitar tech. But
flying clothesline.
Yeah, I met him at because he formed a new band called As Lions with some members of his old band. I actually met him at a show at the Alley Cat a couple of years later, and said, "Oh, when I first moved to the UK, I remember you diving off your cabs at Brixton." He was like, "Oh man, I nearly hit DJ that night. That wasn't good." Or whatever the guy's name was, I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, one thing I noticed during Trivium's set, that was on their In Waves tour, which is a phenomenal record, and if you haven't listened to it, please do. But they go ham on their new tunes. Like, they don't shirk away from playing new tunes on an album tour, which, you know, some other bands do if the album's not as well received. In Waves was, of course, very well received. But they didn't just play stuff from In Waves and Ascendancy. There was a lot of Shogun in there, which was another critically acclaimed record. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think... No, Ember to Inferno was the following year when I saw them. But, you know, they just have such a great mix of songs. Even then, in 2011, when they put out 5 records, the mix of songs that they had to pick from was just so good that the set was banging from start to finish. They played Departure for the first time in forever, which is a brilliant track off Ascendancy. It's a slower number, because every track on that album is scream, 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 sing, 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 scream, scream, scream. This one is more, This one is more sing for a lot of it, scream a little bit, but mostly singing. And it was actually really, really refreshing and really nice.
I can see you're a fan, sir, and I totally respect that. I was so just like during my little bits of research, I like to watch live stuff for bands, and I'm very much aware that they've always been an exceptional live band. They honed their craft, and just all the live videos I've seen have just been like pretty fucking fab, to be honest. One thing I wanted to mention, which I don't know whether you were aware of, I'm sure you are, there was a particular tour which I believe Matt had to go home on, because of and they managed to get they sort of filled in with Howard Jones from Killswitch, stroke Light the Torch, and Avatars with Hannes Eckerstrom. And I was enjoying that, and I was looking at the other guitarists. I was like, "Who the fuck's that?" And I was like, "It's Jared Dines." And I was like, everyone's favorite YouTube guitar clown. I was like, "This is great," and he's like rocking away, loving it. I'm like, "That's really fascinating." But from what I understand, he joined. Obviously, Matt knew that he had to go, so they got him in beforehand and was playing some bits and bobs. And apparently, Matt had to teach Jared how to pick properly, which is quite funny for a YouTube guitarist. But I think Jared openly admitted that he was just like, yeah, you get bad techniques and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, that was a cool bunch of videos to watch, I think. I want to direct your attention to What Dead Men Say, which is their 9th album.
Indeed it is.
So I gave it a spin as much as I can before I vomit in my mouth. No, I'm joking. I liked a lot of what I heard.
You say that.
I mean, there's a couple of bits just made. Go on.
I was about to say, you say that. I sent that to a mutual friend of ours, and this mutual friend is very, very respectful when you send them new music. They'll always give it time. And they said to me, like, it's a bit samey, but I can definitely see the bits I'd like. Then again, if this were a new Machine Head record, I'd love it. So I can't really say much.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much how I looked at it, dude. I was like, oh, this riff reminds me of this band, and I could totally get on board with it if it was that. But then I started to think about, why am I prejudicing this just because it's Trivium? I started to scold myself a bit. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, Ben, what are you doing? So like the title track, there was I think it was about 1:16 into the song, and there was just this riff, and I just had this big shit-eating grin, and I was just like, now that is a great riff. Because it just reminded me of like Slipknot and Gojira fist-fucking in the dark room. I was just like, this is just like... I was just like, that's a great riff. And then, of course, I mean, I love death metal, I love extreme metal, I love anything with a blast beat. So obviously, when the blast beat kicked in, I was just like, yeah. However, I want to say, the chorus pissed me off. I was just like...
What the dead men say.
Yeah, I was like... just didn't do much for me, but this is just my opinion. So tell me more about your views on the album and what you think of it.
Honestly, I was just stoked for it from the first single, pretty much. Trivium have always been good at building their records, and they've been pretty consistent too. Since probably 2011, which is when In Waves came out, because they took a break between Shogun, which took forever, but was really, really good, and In Waves. That was 2008 to 2011, because they toured the hell out of Shogun. Then from sort of 2011 through to now, every 2 years, you can rely on Trivium to crank out a record, because like you say, they're writing on the road consistently. They're a very diligent band, which I really respect. And Matt actually took the time to go and improve his technique, and now he sounds like a powerhouse live. I say all these things because What the Dead Men Say, and in a way, The Sin in the Sentence before it, which was the record that kind of set Trivium on the path to What the Dead Men Say's sound, it's the best summary of all the great elements of Trivium from the past and all the hard work they've put in over the last sort of 5 or maybe even 10 years or so. What the Dead Men Say is, honestly, it's my forerunner for Album of the Year alongside 2 others. Just because of its consistency, the clear, brilliant musicianship. I mean, Alex Bent alone, I say new, he's been with the band for a while now, the drummer.
Big fan of his work, man.
He's so good.
Battlecross were actually an alright band. They were one of those bands that I sort of vaguely paid attention to, and then I was like, oh god, he's buggered off to Trivium.
Yeah.
For I was like, respect, fair play to you, mate. You know, if a bigger band comes calling, it's going to be hard not to be like,
exactly.
Well, I've got to give this a go, and I hope everyone in my band understands.
Exactly.
You know? So
yeah, and on the other end of that, I think that he's making them step their game up because he's so good.
Yeah.
That's not to say that their drummers in the past were terrible by any means. I mean, Travis Smith, I think his last name was Smith. Yeah, Travis Smith, who was their drummer up until Shogun. I mean, you don't write pull harder if you're a crap drummer, right? Then they had
great drum pattern. I just like, great drum pattern.
Absolutely.
Man, They do seem to go through drummers like nobody's business.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean,
you know,
they had Nick Augusto for a bit, who was, I think, a grindcore drummer, and I remember watching the behind the scenes with because they were working with Colin Richardson on that record. And they were saying things like, oh, Nick kind of came into this record as this stallion that needed taming because he was just this wild deathcore drummer who needed refining. Then I think they replaced him with a guy who didn't even play on a record, who just toured with them for a bit.
I think, they basically just seem to replace the people with their drum techs.
Yeah,
so
pretty
this
much.
is what I've kind of learned.
Yeah, because Augusto was Travis's drum tech. I don't think Paul Wantke was Augusto's, but Madero was the drum tech as well. Matt Madero, who was on them with them on Silence in the Snow. But I digress. Back to Alex Bent's incredible playing. It's not just the fills and the sound of his drums, but the sort of little intricacies, like the little tiny cymbal flourishes here and there that you don't think you'd notice, but he makes them stand out, and I think that's really cool.
100% agree, man. 100%.
Of course,
as a drummer myself, I was sitting there I started to go down that wormhole of watching his playthrough videos.
Oh, man, that's so good.
And then I was just like, yeah, this is cool. I can sit here with a bowl of crunchy nut and just get involved in that. So.
Yeah. So good. But yeah, he stands out a lot on the record. And of course, Matt and Corey have been playing guitar together since they were in their teens. So they bounce off each other like nobody's business. There's a moment in actually what's become my favorite song on the record, not from my first spin, but from repeat listens. It's the end track of the album, The Ones They Leave Behind. Just because there's a segment post the main guitar solo where there's a beautiful twin harmony. The first couple of times I listened to it, I cried. It was just, it was that sort of hitting. It hit me that hard.
Music has the power to move you, mate.
It does. It does, man. Normalize that shit. Like, I've been at gigs where I've cried. I've cried watching Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I've
fucking
cried,
right, man.
I've cried watching Frank fucking Turner, for Christ's sake. Like,
I regularly cry when I go on YouTube. I just sit there and listen to music. This is so fucking good.
Yeah.
I feel alive right now. I feel alive.
It's like that moment in... for anyone who hasn't seen Avengers Endgame, get it together. That moment in Endgame where Thor sort of summons his hammer back when he doesn't think he can get it, and he goes, "I'm still worthy." It's just like, yeah. It makes you feel shit, and that's what's good. And that's before we get to the Gojira scrapes, which Matt openly admits. Like, yeah, Joe Duplantier from Gojira taught me how to do this because he did it with because of, I think it was Morbid Angel or Death Angel, one of the two.
Yeah, Trey Zaktoth, definitely. I had this. I love having this argument with people because they're just like, "Oh no, Gojira made it." I'm like, "Oh, fuck off." Trey Zaktoff, mate. I'm just like, yeah, sorry. I'm a huge Morbid Angel fan all the way back to 1986, mate. So I'm just like all over that shit.
Kill a cop, kill a cop, kill a cop.
No, we can forget that. We can forget that song, definitely. That song, Kill a Cop, wherever it is, that can fucking get in the scene, mate, as far as I'm concerned. We are digressing, sir. So I want you to sum up why Trivium are not going in the sea.
Well, Trivium are not going in the sea because they do. They're not going in the sea. I love it.
He's convinced. I'm convinced already. He's telling me. He's telling me this.
Well, it's because they aren't ashamed to try things that other bands might be too scared to do. Yes, they've got some pretty stinking albums to their name. Vengeance Falls, in my opinion, is not their finest work. It's the lamest turkey in the shop, in my opinion. But I commend them for their experimentation. I commend them for trying new things and going, okay, this didn't quite work, but we can take this element and add it to something else that might work out better for us. And when you listen to their full back catalog, you get that full journey from the kind of relentlessness of Ember to Inferno to the kind of not ring-fenced, what's the word? To the kind of honed aggression of Ascendancy to, the thrash of the Crusade and so on and so forth, all the way up to, honestly, the most modern equivalent to Machine Head's The Blackening that I can think of in What the Dead Men Say. It's a great back catalog, and I recommend any music fan, metal or not, to give it a go at least once. And if you hate it, it's completely my fault.
You heard that here, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody who wants to contact me, I can give you Tristan's address if you want to hunt him down after you've listened to it. No, we won't be doing that. All right, mate. I appreciate your impassioned plea, and purely because I can't have anything but respect for Trivium. They're not going in the sea. I cannot legitimately throw anything in the sea for a band who have consistently worked hard. They toured their asses off. They've depending on your perspective, got better. I thought from day one they were just like way ahead of the fucking league, I remember hearing them and just going, these guys practice, and I get pissed off because I don't practice. So, and it just makes me realise how much I suck. So, I am not going to put Trivium in the sea. They're going to stay on the beach with a sand castle making get up of a bucket and spade. And mate, I totally respect your
heck yeah, man,
conversation on that, man. So we're going to now...
I respect it.
Yeah, I thought you'd be happy with that. But we're now going to go to take a word from one of our sponsors. So I will splice this into the recording afterwards for the enjoyment of the evil paymasters. Yeehaw! Does your hole need filling? Well, does it? Of course it does. Your hole needs filling all the time. Come down to Hole Fillers. We'll fill up with 500 grams of concrete. Only 500 grams, you say? For $49.99. $49.99, you say? $49.99. 500 grams of concrete right up in your hole. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I am still the king of fucking everything, and I'm still here with Tristan. We're now moving on to Tristan's visual choice, and he wants to put this in the sea. So I'm looking forward to this. Tristan, hit me with it. Okay.
Well, just to clarify, I want to put it's one whole thing. I don't want to put each individual thing in the sea, but as a whole, it should definitely go in the sea. This is the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
Ooh.
Now, the reason I say this is because
that's not me; it's the crowd.
I can feel the fandom coming for me at the minute. The Star Wars fandom is one of the worst things on the planet. But the thing is, I, like every nerd, was super excited for this trilogy. And I loved The Force Awakens because it's a nice reminder of why you like Star Wars, even though it's a rip-off of the first film.
Yeah, right.
and to give it its credit, I thought The Last Jedi was brilliant. I was one of the few, the sort of minority, very vocal minority, who really, really enjoyed it. We were like, this is a step in a new direction. I dig it. This isn't just going to be a rehash of what we had before. And then The Rise of Skywalker hit us in December of last year. And I enjoyed it at the time, but the more I thought about it, the worse it got and the more pissed off I got. So I watched it again to give it another chance because it came out on Disney Plus a couple of months ago. And yeah, The Rise of Skywalker is not better on repeated viewing.
Why? Tell me why. Okay, before we jump in there, I watched it once and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was like most things of escapism these days for me. It was a good bit of fluff, and I personally, I like seeing a certain, without putting any spoilers for anybody who's not seen it. I don't know why you've not seen it yet. But a certain bad guy came back, and I was like, "Oh, damn, son, yeah!" And that I quite enjoyed it. But tell me why, upon repeated viewing, you don't like it.
Well, said bad guy.
Oh, and more so, why this one film has coloured the whole trilogy for you, and why you want to put it in the C.
Well, I'll do one first, then the other. I think just to kind of
go,
just to keep it nice and orderly. The thing with The Rise of Skywalker is the bad guy you mentioned. I looked at that and go, there was nothing that led to this. Like they just kind of threw it in there to appease fanboys, and it just kind of it just really bothered me that everything that they'd built up to that point was just killed. Because of course in The Last Jedi there's a big moment, and I won't spoil this. There's a big moment which is one of my favorite scenes, which I really liked. A lot of people didn't like it, but I really liked it. It involved Supreme Leader Snoke. But I thought that was a good way to build, and I was really excited for where they would take the Kylo Ren and Ben Solo character in his development over the next film. And to give him his credit, Adam Driver was probably the best thing about this trilogy. His character throughout the whole thing, his kind of redemption arc, I thought that was very well done. What I didn't like was how some of the new characters had their potential wasted, is a good way to put it. Just because, Finn and Poe didn't do a whole lot.
Oh, good.
The thing with The Rise of Skywalker is it kind of tried to retcon a bit too much that didn't need to be retconned. Like the character of Rose from The Last Jedi, who was, I think, a brilliant introduction. But people weren't happy with her, and I looked at it and went, well, the only reason people are speaking out about this that I can see is, Star Wars have gone, oh, here's a non-submissive Asian female character in a movie. How cool is that? And the entire fandom went, boo! Which is awful, because I thought she was a great character. And then as a result, in Rise of Skywalker, her role is massively reduced. And I've gone, I thought you were trying to make progress. What's happening here?
Gotcha.
I'm not going to deny that there's no, cool set-piece standout moments in not Last Jedi. There's plenty in there, too, in The Rise of Skywalker, but it just kind of is muddied by very quick pace, a lot of trying to erase what people didn't like about the previous film. I don't know, it just felt a bit jumbled to me. Like you say, it's good fluff, but for the last film in a Star Wars trilogy, if you've been waiting for that, do we really want fluff? Or...
I can see what you're saying, dude. I can get on board with a fair amount of what you're saying. I think that a lot of Star Wars mythos and everything was destroyed a long time ago for me, for various reasons. Let's not talk about George Lucas's prequels or anything like that. I think that was where it died for me. However, when J.J. Abrams got...
I've got an interesting point on that.
When J.J. Abrams got on board, I was like, okay, the king of reboots, know, as South Park said, South Park fucking labelled him beautifully as the man who could save the national anthem and everything. It's one of my favourite episodes, but... I was like, okay, this is good, but I kind of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. So he did the first film of the reboot trilogy, yes?
Yes.
And then they had two other directors, and though he stayed on board as an executive producer, from what I understand, he didn't oversee as much of the other two films as he did the first film. Is that correct?
As far as I'm aware, he was only down to direct the Force Awakens.
Gotcha.
And I think one of the executive producers in the Through Line, so of course the Marvel Universe has Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy, that's her name. She was supposed to be that kind of, that Kevin Feige figure for Star Wars to kind of make sure there was that through line.
The glue and the consistency, yeah.
Yeah, because that way, when you've got three different directors for each film, because I think the director for the third film in the new trilogy was supposed to be, I forget his name, but he directed Jurassic World. And of course, Rian Johnson directed Last Jedi. I need to see Knives Out, actually. That's a thought. Sorry. So the plan was there was 3 different directors, but they would have this one person saying, yes, but does that make sense? And as a good comparison point, that's why things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and even the prequels, whilst they're not the strongest films, there's a consistency there. Like you say, I mean, you've been hurt by Star Wars prequels, as have I in the past.
Who hurt you?
Attack of the Clones is one of the biggest piles of shit I've ever watched in my life. George Lucas. Oh, that's so good, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the thing with George Lucas is he's not a good script writer, which is evident from the prequel trilogies. But he is a visionary, and he was diving deep into kind of the lore of the Force and that kind of thing. Which is continued in the thankfully canon Clone Wars TV series, which is brilliant if you haven't watched it.
Yes.
And I think that's what I was missing from the sequel trilogy as a whole, is that consistency. It was when you view them as 3 separate films, I think it's easier to criticize and pick apart and decide which bits you like and which bits you don't. But when you look at the trilogy as a whole, it is hard to kind of spot the bits of consistency, bar the relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren and that whole journey, because everything else that happens around them is, very contrasting, which I get has to happen, but it felt like it fell apart, is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's fair, man. I'm still not sensing or getting the true understanding why you feel it fell apart. So I know, I appreciate you trying, man, but if it's going to go in the sea, it's got you're gonna have to raise your game here, my friend. So
well, the main thing,
I guess I want to understand why, as a trilogy, you think that it should all go in the sea. So it's kind of like how I'm looking at this is like you've got 2 good kids and 1 bad kid in a group. And the teacher then goes to them, you're all going in the fire pit, so because of 1 bad kid, So, bad example, but that's kind of how I'm looking at this dude. So, yeah, go on.
But on the flip side to that, it's like when the teacher punishes the whole class. Right?
Yeah, all right, well, they're all going in the fire pit then. So.
No, they're just not being allowed out for break time. They're not allowed to play with all the other sci-fi films.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I guess the vibe around it too. I don't blame Kathleen Kennedy for it because it's a mammoth task having to oversee 3 Star Wars films, especially in this day and age when they've got whatever they have behind them. I guess things like maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's the fandom that needs to go in the sea. Who knows?
Oh yes, maybe, mate.
Maybe.
I think I want to jump in there. I think that what you just said there about having the sheer amount of backing and that they've got now. I mean, Disney are behind it, and even before that, they had a lot of money and a lot of things. And I kind of think surely there has to be some severe quality control or. Are these people not fans of the lore? Are they not fans of the series? Are they just doing it because it's a job? And I sometimes have questioned this with other friends. Like I was speaking to my cousin last night about films, and we were talking about how certain films just destroy the lore of things, chiefly like Alien Covenant, and how much we hate Alien Covenant because of how they just shoehorn this bullshit together about where the xenomorphs came from. That's a by the by. And you can tune in for that podcast another time, kiddies, by the way. But I guess I just wonder, Tristan, about are these people who make these films actually fans of it, or are they I get the directors are chosen because they've done this beforehand and this, that, and the other, but I just wonder, are they actual fans? And surely they're sitting there shaking their head occasionally going, This is just not making sense. What the fuck? How does this work?
Yeah.
Do you think that, or is it?
I think there's an element of that to a degree. I mean, probably less so with J.J. Abrams because the guy brought Star Trek back, didn't he? And that film was great.
Yeah, enjoyed them.
Rian Johnson's the only one I'm unsure of, but then I loved The Last Jedi, so that made me a fan of his work.
Yep.
because I think it was Looper that he directed. Not
Indeed,
Jumper.
yes. Yeah.
Jumper had Hayden Christensen in it, who played Anakin Skywalker.
I also enjoyed Sweatshirt and Collars, and also Jeans as well. They were also good clothing films that came out. So, and Jumper was good. I enjoyed Overjacket as well, and Blue Suede Shoes. So,
wasn't a big fan of Chelsea boots.
Chelsea boots.
That's when he started to sell out.
Bunch of Camden town freaks. Yeah.
Oh man.
Sorry. Anyway.
Oh, dude. It's interesting you raised the point about fans because, I've been watching it through lockdown. I've watched The Mandalorian, and I'm coming up to the end of the Clone Wars, all of which has been overseen by a guy called Dave Filoni, who first worked with George Lucas on the Clone Wars. And apparently, in his kind of first briefing for it, he explained what he thought the lore was, and then George Lucas got super deep on it. He left thinking he'd bombed it, and he got the job. But then you look at the way he talks about the Star Wars universe, and you look about, the little idiosyncrasies and the attention to detail that he'll bring up in just meetings with other directors who are on The Mandalorian, because obviously every episode was directed by someone different.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Including Taika Waititi, who has now got his hands on a feature-length Star Wars film, which will be great.
Love that man.
That man he does not make bad films.
And when he does, I will cry, but I will still forgive him because he's a wonderful man.
Yeah, he's great. It's a lesson to Marvel. Don't fire the weirdo. Embrace him.
Right.
He's got all these people around the table, and they're just engaged clearly with how much love this person has for the Star Wars universe, and he finds a way to translate it. I don't think it's a case of them not being fans. I just think it's a case of there are people who work in the industry who have a bigger connection to it. And I think that if they had been involved in some way or form, that maybe there could have been a bit more of a through line, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess, I don't want to point the finger at directors because obviously there's a massive team of people all the way from the screenplay writers to the script writers to even the producers and the executive producers who oversee everything. So there's a huge amount of people, but I guess I kind of hoped that there would be a little bit more consistency through it, which I guess is the crux of your reason to want to put this in the sea. It's a tough one, Tristan. You really have laid this bad boy on me, and I don't know. I think. Do you know what? I want you to tell me more because I need to process. So you tell me more. Tell me more.
Did you get very far?
Tell me, does he have a car?
Anyway, the amount I did musical theatre at uni, the amount of times I've sung that song,
mate,
I'm ashamed to
admit. Nothing to be ashamed about, man. Musical theatre is the way forward.
Oh, it's the bomb, dude. But we could do a whole episode on that.
Season 2, I'll book you in, mate. We'll do that.
Yeah, boy, I love it. But yeah, so with this new trilogy, I guess I'm trying to find a way to say things that aren't just repeating what I've already said.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And find sort of new things to talk about. I guess one thing that did bother me, and this is totally nothing to do with the production, like the first line production team on in this case, it's more just Disney and the kind of corporate need to appeal to wider audiences.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, this is after a deep dive, of course. So you see things like posters. These were brought to my attention by through the recent Black Lives Matter protests and posts. I saw John Boyega at a London protest, and briefly after that, a whole bunch of social media accounts, including the Star Wars and I think the Disney accounts. I could be wrong there, so don't quote me on that. Saying, we stand with you, John Boyega, Black Lives Matter, all this kinds of stuff, which looks good on them, right? And is very important, I must say, because Black Lives do matter. You can quote me on that. But the thing is, people were then take that statement and then show them the original release poster for something like The Force Awakens, where John Boyega is shown as quite prevalent, and then the release for a country like, let's say, China, where his image is a lot smaller. And apparently there was quite a racial backlash, or race-based backlash, from The Last Jedi as well, where, spoiler alert, Rose Tycho, the Asian character I mentioned before, and Finn share a kiss before, I think it's a big old cannon that's firing at the Rebel base. Apparently that was not well received in some other countries, and that has an effect on how the films are marketed in other places. And I think that's part of what soured it for me, because as far to my knowledge, I could be very wrong, but the other films in the Star Wars series, they haven't been put through as much kind of media and corporate, not scrutiny, but filters as these ones have, because obviously they're made in today's day and age.
Yeah.
I guess that there's just there's elements like that where Disney and Star Wars have clearly tried to be progressive, to give them credit where it's due. Again, I mean, the backlash alone from the fandom, which I did not agree with at all, from John Boyega and the trailer for The Force Awakens, he's the first thing they see, and everyone kicked off. And I just went, he's not even done anything yet. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say, dude. I think...
I'm not being very eloquent with it. I'm sorry.
No. It's a tough one, because we're heading down a different rabbit hole here. That isn't necessarily so much to do with a trilogy, but more to do with the fans, and also possibly how other countries handle things like racism and how what they perceive to be their law, for want of a better term, and ultimately us in the Western world maybe don't understand
exactly
other countries and how they I've seen that firsthand. I'm sure you have as well. When you travel a lot, you visit these places, and things that you take as gospel, and for want of a better term, or things that you do naturally and you expect other people to do, aren't there, and it gets on my tits, and I get angry about it, and I could ramble on this for ages. I think what I'm going to do,
I think we both
mate,
could, to be honest.
I think what I'm going to do is, mate, I'm not going to put the trilogy in the sea, I'm afraid. However, what I am going to do is probably put the fan base in the sea for you.
Yeah, that's fair.
If that's all right with you.
That's perfectly fine.
Because I'm with you. I'm with you on the whole, what the fuck's going on here, man? She's a girl. Oh, no. Or, what the fuck here, man? He's a guy. He's black. Oh. Yeah, no, fuck that. So, yeah, the fan base can definitely get in the sea, and I'm going to throw stones at them from the beach to make sure they sink. All right, mate?
Please.
The trilogy, I'm afraid, is not going in the sea, dude. The fan base are, just because I find it funny, and I do a lot of them get on my tits. So there we go, mate. Thank you very much for your discussion on that. I hope you're not too disappointed in my decision, but no,
I think it's very fair.
I think there's a lot of scope for this that we could have covered, and especially where we were veering towards the end of that. But I think that is maybe for another time, my friend. So
absolutely.
I'm going to cue a bunch of special effects now to put the fan base of Star Wars into the into the sea, which will be done in post-production. So you're just going to hear me turn this off now. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 3 of Get in the Sea. I'm still here with Tristan.
Yeah.
So far, we've discussed Trivium and the Star Wars trilogy. He is 1 for 1, technically, at the moment, in what has gone in the sea and what hasn't. This third one is a hilarious bone of contention with a lot of people, and people get really angry about it. I don't quite why.
They do, and I don't know why.
Exactly. I have a firm feeling we're going to be on the same page on this one, but ladies and gentlemen, Tristan's random choice of the evening is pineapple pizza, or pineapple on a pizza. After you, sir.
Well, see, this is the thing. I don't know why everyone got so angry about it.
Right?
Personally, I just think it's fucking weird that you get angry about what other people have on their pizza. I mean, it's fair enough if you don't like it. If you don't want to eat it, I'm not going to turn up at your house with a Hawaiian pizza and force feed it to you. But, if other people are doing it, you don't judge them based on that and go, yeah, or, oh, what a weirdo, you got fruit on your pizza or something. And now my method for this is, because I've never gotten a whole Hawaiian pizza because I'm not a mad person, because you got to go half and half, right? My perfect...
I don't know, mate. It sounds like you're not fully committed to it, mate. I'm marking this information down, mate. That sounds like
Well,
I'm not truly committed to this, Ben. This is what you're telling me here.
Well, no. Here we go. So you have half and half. Now, veggie and vegan friends, I am sorry. But half is a Hawaiian, so pineapple and ham. The other half is a meat feast.
Fair.
That is the perfect combination of sweet and salty.
All right.
Okay? I love it on that kind of thing. And I am one of those weird people who likes to pick the pineapple off his pizza, but then eat the pizza because you get that little kind of hint of sweetness. And it's actually quite nice.
So you don't even eat the pineapple on the pizza, you take it off the pizza.
I do.
Oh,
I do,
right.
but
I was
sometimes...
like, fucking hell, mate.
Sometimes, not all the time. I don't just have this pile of pizza pineapple in my fridge.
I'll keep it anyway, just in case. I might use it one day, honest.
Yeah. Oh, that one's got a bit of ham on it. That one's got some tomato. Here's this bowl of roasted, cheesy, hammy pineapple. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as big a deal as everyone makes it out to be. Everyone gets so angry about it on the internet, and I really just don't understand. It's like, I get it's not for everyone. Like, it's an out there thing, and it's certainly not Hawaiian because you can't just put pineapple on something and call it Hawaiian. Right? No matter how many burger places will try and convince you.
Yeah, like a surf and turf.
Actually,
it's like a surf and turf,
yeah,
man. I'm just like, I've never been surfing on a surf and turf, and I've certainly never dug up any turf. So what the fuck? What's in the name? What's in the name?
Exactly. That said, pineapple on burgers is gross, but we're digressing. On pizza, it is fine. On pizza, it's fine. On burgers, it's not a whole ring of a pineapple on a burger, so that when you bite through a whole pineapple into the beef patty, it's just ugh. Whereas on a pizza, it's fine because it's like little bursts of sweetness in amongst the salty, ham and cheese and
salty goodness. Okay, I've got to ask you something. Are you a savory or a sweet dessert sort of guy, or do you like to flip it up?
I like to flip it up.
Yeah.
I don't know of many savory desserts, bar like a cheese board. Okay,
that's cool. I just wanted to see if you were going to vibe with that. How about French toast, as in eggy bread or whatever people want to call it? Do you have that with ketchup or brown sauce, or do you get the maple syrup and banana or jam and all over that shit?
Kind of a combination of the two, because one thing I like to do is I'm not so big on the powdered. I'm not. I mean, yeah, you knew this before I came on the podcast, Ben. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of stuff like powdered sugar on pancakes and French toast and that kind of thing. But one thing I do like to do with French toast, once it's been or eggy bread or whatever people want to call it, is once you've made it, is
throw it in the bin.
Drizzle on maple syrup.
Yep.
Drizzle on some maple syrup, and then top it with some bacon.
Ah, you're going the whole Canadian hog, my man. Yeah. All right. I'll get. Oh,
yeah, man. It's good stuff.
See, I forego the sweet stuff generally. That's just my thing. I will always take savoury over sweet. I don't know why it's become that way, but that's just my personal preference on that. But going back to the crux of this, pineapple on a pizza or pineapple bonanza, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I love it. I do enjoy a Hawaiian in a speech quotation, whatever you want to call it.
Hawaii, we're not trying to get sued. It's fine.
Poor aloha. I love it. I love it, man. I can't say anything bad about a pineapple pizza, and I just think anybody who doesn't like a pineapple pizza can get in the sea, as far as I'm concerned. So I mean, I enjoy it, man. I enjoy it as a change. I like yourself. Don't get me wrong. I'm a meat feast kind of guy, and that's my preference. I just as much as I respect anybody who doesn't eat meat or whatever. That's their individual choice.
Exactly.
However, they're wrong. I'm joking, of course.
See
what I did there.
Well, that's the thing. I've been cooking a lot of like veggie and vegan meals since I've been home because my mum's vegetarian, so
fair play.
I try my best not to. I cook the odd meat dish here and there, but it's mostly been a lot of like veggie curries and risottos and stuff. So, but I guess the point of it comes down to, I don't want to say picky eaters because people like what they like and it's fine. But
Yeah.
I will say that I'm not particularly picky when it comes to what I eat. I mean, I did say I'd eat a deep fried dog turd earlier, but that was
Guess what you got for dinner later, mate?
That was Overwatch and the Kardashians. Well, one of my golden retrievers is asleep on our lawn right now, but who knows?
Deliveroo, we're going to send it to you later, mate. I've already got it ordered for you, so it's all good, mate.
Deliveroo, more like deliver poo. There it is. But yeah, I guess because I'm a bit more open in terms of like the food I eat. I don't actually eat dog turds, for anyone who's wondering.
He just wants to clarify that, ladies and gentlemen, that he does not.
Yeah, there's no dog turds. There's no pile of pizza pineapple in my fridge. Like, this is just as a treat. But the main thing is that I'm, I do like to try new things. Like I'd never had kimchi before 2016, and then when I tried that, I was like, dude, where'd you get this shit? This is amazing. And various other stuff. On a separate note, based on the people who get angry about pineapple pizza, the one thing that made me laugh, and I know they were kind of doing it for a rib anyway, because they're that sort of band. There's a trolley band that you must have heard of them, called Attila.
I know the name.
They're the biggest trolls ever because they just deliberately do things to piss people off. They put out a song called Pizza, and it's your standard kind of deathcore shit. The singer trying to go, double cheese and triple pepperoni, kind of shit like that. Oh, that nearly killed me.
You need to warm up, bro.
The Zen of Screaming singing warm-up works. The screaming warm-up told me nothing. Yeah. And then, Melissa Cross shows me two things, and then I've got a testimony from Phil fucking Labonte, and I'm just like, why do I need this? Tell me how to do things. I was talking to, a mutual friend of ours about Zen of Screaming, just to tangent a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they are a singer as well, and I was talking to them like, man, there's a lot of testimonials from people that this person has trained. He's like, yeah, it's fucking annoying, isn't it? That would be like me promoting the gig that I'm currently playing. Anyway, back to Attila and pizza and pineapple. The breakdown of this song about pizza. They answer the door and there's a pizza and he goes, oh, I got the good shit. And he opens the box and he goes, dude, are you shitting me? Pineapple on the whole fucking pizza? Are you kidding me? The guy goes, yeah, what's the big deal? And the singer just goes, fucking pineapple. And it just breaks down. And the lyrics are just, pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. You got to be a special kind of angry.
Yeah, he obviously sounds like he's got a lot of anger issues, man, especially if he's getting that fucking bent out of shape about something so delicious and yummy.
The guitarist, midway through, the person who orders the pineapple pizza goes, dude, you can just pick off the pineapple. He shoves him away and goes, no! Beating the crap out of this pizza on the table. It's like, but that is an accurate reflection of how people react when you say, I don't mind pineapple on pizza.
It does seem to have become a very particular source of amusement for people who do like winding people up. I think one of my sort of favourite little memes that popped up a while ago was it was basically someone making a pizza. You could just see their hands and they're putting everything on it, and then the pineapple goes on, and then they just scrape it into the bin. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man, it's absolutely insane.
I'm with you on this one, man. I like pineapple on pizza, so there's no way this is going in the sea. But I think people who don't like pineapple pizza can probably get in the sea. So much like the Star Wars fan base. So,
Absolutely. Well, yeah, especially if you're just going to give people shit for their eating choices.
Right, exactly.
It'll be like making fun of someone for being vegan, which, you know, I'm not going to pretend I didn't do earlier in life, but then I stopped being a dick. You know, people can eat what they want, and that's fine. It doesn't affect your life.
Yeah, exactly. Get on with your life, and just it doesn't matter what other people do as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, you know? And it's not as if those people are offending you by eating some pineapple that's on a pizza or being a vegan or anything. I'm just like, just get on with your life.
Or
go and eat your fucking deep fried dog turd or whatever it is you want to get on board with, you know? It's fine.
Deep fried dog turds.
I'm with you on this, mate. Pineapple pizza is not going in the sea. It's remaining firmly on the table where it will be consumed by those who love and adore and cherish it. And if you don't like it, don't eat it. But above all, do not comment on my love of pineapple pizza. I will throw you in the sea if you do. Tristan, mate, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to A, see you, B, speak to you, and C, to have your time, my man. More than happy to chat any other time. Off the record, of course, man. So maybe we can do that again. And
absolutely,
if you want to come back for season 2 for something a bit more meatier, for one of a better pun or term, we can definitely work that in. But dude, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for shooting the shit. It's been great,
dude. I really appreciate your time. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
You too, mate.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Tristan is going to sign off now.
Bye, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you very much for tuning into another episode of this terrible and shit podcast. So, don't remember that there's many more out there for episodes for you to tune into or not. But if you do like it, please share with your friends, like and subscribe, all that cool stuff that the cool kids talk about. Anyway, bye!